Welcome to 21 Questions with Bishop Fox's Lady Foxes. I'm Sean McMillan, Community Specialist, and today we're joined by Lindsay Von Tish. Let's get started. What's your role at Bishop Fox?
I'm a consultant too here at Bishop Fox, so I work as a pen tester, breaking into different environments, networks, applications, and then seeing what I can do.
How long have you worked in cybersecurity?
So I got my first job in cybersecurity in 2018, and my first role as a pen tester 4 years ago in 2020.
Why do you love working in offensive security?
You know, I feel like I've always loved doing things that new or like even kind of wrong ways. As a kid, I was very good at finding the letter of the law and not the spirit. And finding my way just into like onto roofs and places I shouldn't be. I love a puzzle, and I feel like so much of what I do is just a big puzzle. It's looking at something new, figuring out how it works, and then figuring out how I can make it work for me.
What's your favorite place to vacation?
I love going back home. I left Alaska for college when I was 18, and then permanently 4 years later. And I do think I appreciate where I grew up so much more now that I've lived other places. And as an adult, I get to go back, get a different perspective, try new things. I do a lot more like touristy things that I didn't really do. And so, yeah, I always love going back home to Alaska.
What advice would you give to your younger self?
Man, some part of me wants advice from my younger self. I think at 13, I at least thought I had all the answers. But I mean, I think the advice that I would give to myself that I'm actively trying to implement in my own life right now is stop worrying about good enough and just do. Because I think anything you want to do, whether that's something creative or in this industry learning a new technical skill, somebody's already done it like 1,000 times better than you, and it gets really easy to get in your own head and be like, oh, the world doesn't need another ridiculous short story or junior, somebody who wants to be a junior pen tester. Like, I'm not already an expert, therefore maybe I'll just kind of push this to the side. Every overnight success just doesn't show the hours of practice and hard work that went into it. And yeah, you're gonna struggle, you're gonna fail, you're gonna make some bad art, you're gonna struggle to learn some things, and that's just part of the process. You can't let that be kind of the ultimate discouragement.
What's a resource that helped you when you started your career?
I've always been an advocate for small local meetups and conferences because that's where I got my start. I started going to the Dallas Hackers Association right after I moved here. That group is incredibly supportive of new speakers. I gave a game theory talk that ended up being a longer format presentation I gave at multiple conferences. And I would have never been able to do that without the support and encouragement of the folks there. Because I showed up, I talked one day, because, they encourage new people to give a talk, and I wanted to, be an active participant, and I didn't expect that to turn into something that just had a massive effect on my career. And I think because this is the place where, by putting yourself out there is obviously terrifying, but it's these small local communities where you're gonna meet a lot of people who can be friends and mentors. And I think public speaking is one of the best things you can do for your career, but finding a actual comfortable and accepting place to do that is definitely difficult, but I think there's a lot of great communities out there that provide that.
What are your 5 desert island movies?
Gosh, so I have a desert island with electricity, a TV, and a DVD player. That honestly just sounds like a lovely vacation. But let's see, my movies are going to be a bit of an eclectic mix. August Rush, Probably the Eras Tour movie, let's be honest. Atomic Blonde, a just beautiful aesthetic action movie with Charlize Theron and amazing stunt sequences. Hackers, it's a classic, what can I say? And Isle of Dogs.
Who's your all-time favorite music artist or group?
Oh man, I have like 20 of these. Yeah, I'd say definitely Taylor. It's got to be Taylor Swift is one of the top people. But also there's a British group called Crawlers that just released their debut album, but I've been a huge fan of them since their EP. So yeah, two very different artists.
And how do you prioritize self-care?
I'm working and in grad school right now, so this is something I've found myself having to actively do, because it's definitely hard. I think for me, doing a lot of creative things, playing the fiddle, writing short stories, and doing things that kind of allow me to step away from what I usually do is really good to just kind of get in a different mental space, and just kind of reconnect with myself and the things that I love. I also, I have a dog, and I might be the type of person who, it's a beautiful day out, but I should go for a walk. I would be so happy if I went for a walk, but I'm not going to do that for myself because I've got 700 other things going on, but I'll do that for my dog.
What's your favorite sport or activity to play or watch?
I love to snowboard. I really enjoyed watching the recent X Games.
What's the best part of working at Bishop Fox?
I'd say the people, 100%. I've just always been so impressed by everyone I've worked with here, and we have so many incredibly talented pen testers here that I've worked with a lot of different people across teams, and I've just been blown away by the talent and kindness. I think as somebody who's, still relatively new in their career, working here with such smart people is an honor in and of itself, but then to, work with these people and just like the generosity people have in terms of sharing information, helping each other out, it's honestly incredible. And I've been here more than a year, but it still impresses me every single day.
How has mentorship played a role in your career?
Mentorship has definitely been a big part of my career. I think a lot of the mentorships I've had have kind of happened organically. They've been people I've met at Dallas Hackers Association who said, "Hey, I heard you're really interested in learning these things. I know of these groups," or "Hey, because there are some folks I met locally, like Phil Wiley, who said, 'Hey, your talk was awesome. Are you thinking of presenting at other places, and would you like support doing so?'" And yeah, having people just who kind of believe in you and, push you to dream bigger, kind of do more is awesome.
What was your field of study?
So I got my bachelor's degree in computer science and economics, and I'm currently working on my master's in cybersecurity from NYU.
If you could switch careers for a day, what profession would you try?
I've always wanted to be a stunt performer. I don't have any of the requisite skills. I tried to be an acrobat for a brief period of my life, and it was very fun, and I was not good at it. But yeah, I'd love to be a stunt performer.
If you could have dinner with anyone, who would it be?
So I've been kind of thinking about this question, and I hope this doesn't feel like a cop-out because it is how I legitimately feel. I think, being in STEM, I'm definitely cognizant of all of the people who have contributed to projects who, decades later weren't remembered for them. And I just want a conversation with a handful of those people. The kind of the little people in bigger projects, and I want to know what their experience was like.
For girls interested in STEM careers, what advice would you give?
One thing I think I definitely needed to hear when I was getting into my career, heck, I still need to hear today, is you don't have to be perfect. In fact, you're not going to. You're going to get a bad grade on an assignment or in a class. You're going to mess something up at work. You're always going to mess things up, and I think particularly women, but everybody who kind of feels like a newcomer to this field, there's this feeling of you have to, be on top of your game at all times, and just constantly proving yourself. And yeah, everybody messes up. It's how you learn from it and what you do afterwards.
Who was your childhood hero?
Yeah, Rosie Fletcher, or, all characters from Tamora Pierce novels.
Who's your hero now?
Electronic Frontier Foundation, definitely. They're fighting so many important fights, not for profit, but to protect people's privacy rights and stemming the flood of misinformation, and I'm just so impressed by all of their work.
What inspired you to join the cybersecurity or technology industry?
I've always been kind of a story person, so I think one of my biggest inspirations at an early age was characters in books, particularly like Cory Doctorow's novels, even Dan Brown's hacker novels. I read a lot of like paperback hacker novels as a kid, and I think that's what kind of put this idea in my head at an early age, even when I didn't really know what it meant. And then when I was in college, I was studying computer science. I was looking into being a developer, but I did CTF for the first time, and I just fell in love with the sort of problem solving that goes into hacking. And I think a lot of it was, I was like, wow, breaking stuff is so much more fun than making it.
If you could eat only one cuisine for the rest of your life, what would it be?
My grandmother is Czech, and she's made homemade kolaches for like every family gathering for years. And now my mom makes them. I've learned how to make them. I think that's what I'd pick because it would keep the food that I love most and challenge me to expand my own culinary skills and, maybe learn more about my family.
And lastly, where do you find meaning in your work?
I love learning new things. I never want to stop learning. It's sort of become an imposter syndrome problem because as soon as I get like base level competent at a thing, I'm like, all right, how do I make it harder? What do I learn next? But that's the thing I really love about consultant work is I'm in a new environment, a new application, every few weeks to a few months. So I constantly have to do research and come up with new approaches. And it keeps everything new and exciting, and it means I feel like I'm constantly growing.
Thank you so much for your time. Be sure to catch the rest of our 21 Questions series on bishopfox.com.